We expect that business demand is really going to pick up in September as mostly schools are back in, a lot of people are back in offices, but we don't think it really recovers in full until 2023. Europe, we expect to be, as soon as the borders are open, that will come back largely in full. Probably next summer will be the biggest year in history.
And that's the CEO of United Airlines, Scott Kirby, just this morning on when we can expect air travel to fully return to normal. It comes, though, as the country has hit a major milestone. The number of people flying over the July 4th holiday weekend topping pre-pandemic levels, which I can personally attest to as I bring in my friend Sara Nelson, president of the Association of Flight Attendants. It was bonkers. I mean, it was crazy lines. I couldn't even believe it. But when he talks about a timeline looking ahead to next summer as being sort of the apex of getting back to normal, what do you think about that? Is it realistic?
Well, I think so, Alex. And first of all, I'm so glad to have you back in the air with us. So thank you so much for joining us.
Never left, frankly, but having said that.
Well, what we have right now is almost every single person who is coming to the airplane door is a first-time flyer. And what I mean by that is they're either a leisure traveler or they're someone who hasn't flown in 18 months and is getting back and trying to understand how this is working today. And so what we're seeing now in the numbers that we have are people who are wanting to get reunited, starting to come back together, wanting to travel, get out. But we do need that business travel back, and we don't have that back yet, in part because we don't have international travel back. And this pandemic is not over, so that's why you still have the mask policies in place, because we can't contribute to continuing this pandemic. We also have the unruly passenger events going on. We've got to get that tamped down because people are wondering whether or not they can get on a plane right now. And I think that Scott Kirby's assessment that we're going to see this back up and running by next summer is probably correct, because things are just not normal right now.
Yeah. Let me, though, clarify the word I used, which was bonkers. And let me say that does not apply to the actual airplane experience. You, your colleagues, they've all been absolutely fantastic, but they have had to deal with an uptick of, let's just call it behavioral issues. I mean, what is that like for the flight attendants? I'm looking at that one that happened, American Airlines, I think it was the 6th. They literally had to duct tape a woman who was having some sort of a mental breakdown, for lack of a better explanation. She was trying to open the door on the flight saying, I gotta get off this plane. Woof.
Yeah. You know, everyone's at a stress level 10. Everyone needs a little help right now, and we need people to really be helpers. It is really hard out there for flight attendants. Not only do you have people who are coming to the plane who don't know what is going on, and so we've got our workload is much higher because we're answering a lot more questions, helping a lot more people through the experience. But then you also have people who are really, really stressed out, and sometimes that is coming out on the plane. We had a flight attendant bit this last week, punched. And you're right. The situation out there is bonkers. And I really appreciate you giving kudos to the crews who are trying to keep it in order. And that goes with the flight deck and the flight crews working together and trying to help people understand what to expect, what the rules are, and how to comply to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, just personal anecdote. I'll tell you, get to the airport like an hour before you think you need to, and then you won't stress out. Even though you see the huge lines trying to get through TSA security, you won't stress out if you give yourself the kind of time. Let's talk about masks. I'm very glad to see them still on flights because we are getting packed in. That time when we had those middle seats left empty, that's pretty much gone away across the board. So they expect that the mask mandate will be lifted on flights, September 13 specifically. That's when the government order expires. And they say that airplanes are the safest place to be indoors with other people because of the air filtration. Do you think September 13 is a good date to target? Do you think it might be extended? What are your thoughts?
I think it really depends on what we see happening with this Delta variant and how quickly we can get children vaccinated. Remember, we have people on our planes who don't have access to the vaccine yet or medically can't get it. And so we've got to have one level of safety. And the air filtration is great. Yes, it's safer than any other place indoors. But let's face it, you're in a metal tube jammed together with people. That's not really an office environment, right? So those studies that you saw about the air filtration and the airlines being some of the safest places and most controlled environments in the country, a big part of that, a big component of that was everyone wearing masks. So the air filtration doesn't really matter if you don't also have people wearing masks. And that's why that mask mandate is still in place through September 13th. I think as we get closer, the experts are going to look at where we are and what we need to do, because we want to make sure that transportation isn't extending this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sara Nelson, my friend, what would a weekend be without talking with you on the air? Thank you so much. Good to see you.
I love it.
Thanks.
Thank you.